It's been 24 days since Shadowkeep has launched, and I felt like now would be a good time to talk about competitive. You see, competitive received changes equally as revolutionary as the changes that came to our armor in Armor 2.0 and the various sandbox changes that were handed out. Competitive as a whole is a much different experience than what you've experienced in the past. Now, a number of changes I want to go over real quick about competitive. Number one, it's 3v3 now, exclusively, and it's survival only, whereas previously it was 4v4, and you had a rotating playlist of control, clash, countdown, as well as survival. So being survival only now still has like a chaotic nature to it, similar to that of clash, but as you get closer and closer to running out of lives, you start pumping the brakes real quick, and it enters like this elimination mentality almost. Now, some people have been speculating if elimination will be permanently moving to competitive, which I'm kind of scared of. Elimination is super unforgiving. Like if you get bad blueberries inside of something like competitive right now in survival, it's actually okay. Like if one of my blueberries dies, I'm like, all right, it's okay. We still got some lives. Objectively, survival is not nearly as stressful. Where something like elimination, if a blueberry dies or if they let like an enemy pass them and they get the kill on you, it's super unforgiving, which in some playlists, most notably trials, I was okay with that level of unforgiveness. But at the same time, that was because I was only going to do like a card or two, right? Outside of the trial carries that we used to do, that level of stress I knew was only for a finite window, where something like competitive has a little more link to it. So I'm not necessarily too keen on playing such a stressful playlist game after game, all the way to something like Legend Rank, or even to something like Fable, which is why I think survival is the perfect middle ground. Now, another big change that was handed out to competitive was the matchmaking system itself. You see, it bases everything on something called true skill, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. It's been confusing. Bungie even issued a statement a few weeks ago saying that like the true skill system wasn't working correctly, but they made some adjustments where it's actually supposed to matchmake you against the right people. Either way it goes, in theory, if the game thinks you are a legend tier player, but your rank is still maybe at brave, what it will actually do is give you a crap ton more points per win, so as to pull you out of that rank and into the rank you were meant to be in. Now, simultaneously though, after that game completes, it will match you up against other true skill players. Now, I was told a couple things. I was told the true skill system actually adjusts minute by minute, which seems kind of incredible. Minute by minute, my God. Damn it, Bungie, going the extra mile. Now, my matchmaking has been pretty fair, I would say. Like, I can't just run over people, but I'm not necessarily killing myself, which I know is sounding kind of toxic right now, but just to be frank, the competitive grind this season has never been easier. Like, stupid easy, which I know is drastically different from other people. Like, if you go make a post right now on Bungie's forums or maybe Reddit, and you say, hey, competitive is way too easy, you're about to receive some abuse, because there is some guy right now who's on a 20-game losing streak, and he's scoping the internet for answers, and he comes across your post that says competitive is too easy. Needless to say, I doubt your replies are going to be pleasant. But that's the thing, man. People are experiencing two different things here. And I'm not sure who's experiencing the best and who's experiencing the worst. From what I'm seeing is most high-skill players got to Legend in like an afternoon. They got to Legend and then they got out. And they'll probably never go back to competitive again. So whatever bad experience low-skill players may have had initially, I'm assuming as more and more players leave the competitive playlist throughout the season because they reach the ranks so fast, it should get better for them, or at least I would hope so. Now, another thing that was actually put in place this season, which has actually been the best change so far, is there's actually a lone wolf playlist. So if you're a solo player only and you want to be matched up against other solo players, there's a playlist right next to the regular competitive playlist that you can go straight into, and you'll be matched up against other solo players, which I've gotten like mixed results from. For the most part, I've gotten pretty decent teammates and gone up against pretty decent players. I lost one game inside of comp solo playlist, and that was actually the other day. I can't even remember what we were using. I think we were using the bow. That's right, we were using Leviathan's Breath. So yeah, man, we were throwing. But the thing is, the solo playlist is super forgiving for a number of reasons. Number one, most of the players that may have beat you in previous seasons probably beat you because they were with the squad. Like, I'm not saying they didn't beat you because they weren't individually better than you, but there's a lot of times I've lost against teams where I know for sure, like whenever I'm fighting a guy, I'm like, you know what? I could kill this guy 9 times out of 10 if it was just he and I. But because he's got his butt buddy, I die. So the beauty of this solo playlist is not only that you're going against other solo players, but that same guy that's been playing with his teammates day after day, month after month for the past year inside of competitive, he is not in this playlist. He is playing in the regular competitive playlist because the skill sets that he has with his team and that team synergy is not nearly as useful in this Lone Wolf playlist. So the Lone Wolf playlist actually serves two purposes there, which has resulted, at least in my competitive experience, being very nice. Now again, there's both sides to the spectrum. My competitive playlist experience so far in the solo playlist has been very, very nice. Obviously though, on the other end, somebody's having a shitty time, because if you're winning, someone's losing. Now another big change, which has made pretty much the grind for things like Recluse, Randy's throwing knife, and everything that requires Fabled super easy, is the point floor that is put in place. So if you happen to reach, say, Brave, and upon reaching Brave, you go on like a 50 game losing streak. You just lose everything. It's okay. The game will lock you in at that point floor and you will not go back down to 0. This makes it easier for players to get to Fabled. And on top of that, I think the point loss overall on your way to Fabled is much less. So really, you're losing less points now, and you got a point floor based on the rank you reach. A huge win for pretty much anyone that has ever struggled with competitive in previous seasons. But with all those changes being said, and we've gone over all of them, what is the state of the competitive playlist? All right. The competitive playlist has turned into a great playlist for new light players, players that have never reached Fable, players that are still trying to obtain pinnacle weapons, but for most veteran competitive players, this is going to be a dying playlist for you. It's not a playlist that we stay in. And I know like in previous seasons, there would be players that just lived in the competitive playlist. The reality is, Bungie signed this thing over whenever they quit making pinnacle weapons. Like, I was very much let down when I heard we weren't going to get pinnacles. But whenever I heard that we weren't gonna have a legend weapon, that one's a big one, okay? Like, I understand making the grind easier for people that are just trying to get things like Recluse and Mountaintop, Randy, all your Fable-related weapons, making that grind easier for the non-PvP player, I'm okay with. But you gotta put something there at the very top that your hardcore PvP players can go after. We had that last year with Not Forgotten, which was excellent. Despite it being nerfed, it was still excellent. We had something to chase. Now not having something to chase and making the grind so stupidly easy is really putting competitive players in a position where they're just kind of wondering, what now? And that's pretty much competitive, like through and through. I'm playing it, I'm enjoying it for the sake of just like playing up against other players that are also trying to get the W. Like, it's nice, but not having a pinnacle weapon to chase, especially upon reaching something like Legend, really sucks. And for my PvE players, just imagine waiting for an expansion like Shadowkeep. Not like your seasonal expansions, I'm talking about an annual expansion. And you're waiting and you're getting hyped for it and you're like, hey man, we've got a big expansion coming. You know what that means. And it launches and Bungie's like, no raid. How much win would that take out of you? Now, I split my time between both things, PvE and PvP. I enjoy them both to the fullest. And for me, whenever one aspect of the game diminishes, it almost takes the win out of the content for me. Like Season of the Drifter brought a lot of good things to PvP, at least from a content creator's perspective. But because it did not have a raid, it really took the buzz off, right? So I'm not saying we should have a legend reward every single season, but on these big annual expansions like Shadowkeep and Forsaken, to have something there for the players, man, that worked their butts off to get to 5,500 would be really nice. Something other than just like a slap on the back. This has been a great expansion so far for PvE. It really has. Sandbox wise, it's also been excellent. I love Armor 2.0. I love the changes. I like min-maxing my loadouts. But as far as PvP goes, for the hardcore PvP player, this has been a terrible expansion. To me, I think making the grind easier for players that are just trying to get the Fabled, that are just trying to complete the quest, completely acceptable. But the grind afterward from Fable to Legend has almost gotten too easy. And then on top of being too easy, you don't even have a Legend reward. It's almost like Bungie's way of saying, hey, listen, we made this playlist super easy so that everyone can achieve it. And in doing so, we're not going to add any more pinnacle weapons because we know everyone would get them. It's not a fun time for me, man. I like picking up a weapon where I know, hey, listen, I did a lot of work to get this thing. I had to finesse some things to get this thing, okay? And I'm not trying to get philosophical on you. I'm just saying, it was nice to look at a weapon and say, you know what? I put a lot of work in getting this Adept Doctrine of Passing. Yes, you got a regular Doctrine of Passing. It's not that much different than my Adept, but mine required a flawless run. And there's something special about that. You take a little more pride when you use that weapon and item. And as of this point, nothing inside of the competitive playlist really brings that novelty. And it's been something in the works now for months. the nerfs to Not Forgotten and Luna's Howl, season after season, pinnacle weapons becoming easier to get. I know we complain about Mountaintop and Recluse, but that was not us saying we want pinnacle weapons removed. No, that's not it. Simple, subtle changes would have made those weapons a lot more balanced. Recluse, for instance, Master of Arms. The fact that it can proc from other weapon kills is what makes its combination with Mountaintop so damn deadly. If you just simply removed that and made it where Recluse can only proc Master of Arms on its own individual kills, my god, you just took a step to major balancing of this weapon. So no, we weren't complaining about pinnacle weapons in a way where we're like, you know what, cut them from the game, get rid of them. We just wanted some small patches done on certain weapons that would make them a little more balanced. They would still be good, but removing pinnacle weapons, specifically something like a legend reward weapon, in an annual expansion is just a sure way to kill off the competitive playlist. So guys, that is my thoughts on competitive. I know I'm coming off toxic, man. You know I hate to do this. I don't like to sound toxic, but I have experienced Destiny on both sides of the spectrum. And the side that I disliked the most was Destiny 2 when it first launched, and it was super casual. That was the side that I hated the most. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.